This is Dr. Kim, licensed clinical psychologist and host of Love to Heal. Today we have a brilliant guest, and I'm so excited that he's joining us. He is known as Street MD, Dr. Joseph Yi. We are so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Kim. It's an honor to be here. I'm usually the guy that's interviewing other people. So to be on the other side, it's an honor, man, especially with you. Thank you for having
Well,
me
you
on.
have earned that slot. You are a massive influencer now, along with being a board certified MD and holistic psychiatrist, which is so exciting. And we're going to get into all of that. But can you tell me a little bit about how you got into becoming a psychiatrist and maybe some hardships along the way?
Yeah. I mean, there's that saying that it takes one to um, you got to like experience it to in my uh, professional experience. All the great addiction psychiatrists and or holistic psychiatrists or mental health specialists had to have gone through some shit in life.
Mhm.
Don't tell me that you read it in the books and you know how to help people. So some of the most brilliant minds that I've come across have gone through some hardships in life, and I'm no different. Um, I came to this country when I was like 5 years old, and I've shared this story with many people, but for our audience here today, um, I was someone who grew up in a very poor environment. I grew up in the ghettos of Philly. My parents were broke to the point where they couldn't afford heat in the wintertime. So I remember one day, like in middle school, I woke up and I was like, damn, man, like this really, really sucks. Having to grow up in this environment where I couldn't even take a shower in the morning because it was so freaking cold during the wintertime. So I remember like sometime in middle school, I just woke up one day and said, I want to be a doctor. Like I figured like if I could make money, that would solve all my problems, coupled with the fact that in high school, in middle school throughout, I was just getting bullied a lot of racial shit going on in my area. So I figured if I became somebody and made money, that would solve all my problems. So I really do believe that pain is the greatest motivating factor for any human being. Pain and inspiration, but pain being more motivating than inspiration.
Mhm.
So I allowed that pain to fuel me to push through a lot of things that I didn't want to do in life. And when I finally did get into medical school, my the idea that I had was I wanted to become a pediatrician because it seemed like the cool thing to do. But once I got a taste of sick kids, and I love my kids and all, but I don't like working with sick kids. I realized very quickly in middle school. I took about 3 years off to pursue a music career, and my parents like kicked me out of the house at that point. I was living in like people's couches, abandoned buildings. Like I was like borderline homeless, man.
Mhm.
And after 3 years of drinking and drugging and partying, I have to say, I learned a lot about drugs. I learned a lot about health. I learned a lot about how to connect with people. Because prior to that, I was like, not to sound stereotypical, but like that typical Asian nerd guy with the crew cuts and, limited social abilities and so on, whatever the stereotype is, there is some truth to that. So I was that guy. And then once I got into the drug scene and partying with the rock stars and all that, like it really taught me how to connect with other human beings.
Mhm.
Um, and then after 3 years of doing that kind of stuff, I started getting really sick. I'm sure like a lot of people have these kind of stories where like they had to experience illness before they appreciate wellness. And there was this one moment where I was so sick from not eating enough and just putting too much toxic chemicals into my body that I had that moment, that epiphany where I was like, F this, I got to do something different. And this time I want to go back to medical school, but to be a psychiatrist focusing on addictions. So that's kind of like when you have purpose now, it becomes powerful enough that allows you to overcome some of the bullshit you got to do in medical school to get that degree. So I wish I could tell the audience here that I learned so much from medical school, and that's what I've learned to help create an impact in society. But that would be a complete fabrication or a lie. I learned how to become a human being who focuses on wellness through my own struggles as an addict, through my depression, my experience with depression and anxiety and stress on a chronic basis as a musician. That's what allowed me to have compassion for other human beings and do what I do for a living.
Yeah, that is a reason why I feel like you are so enigmatic, because you are affable, because you are down to earth. And my experience like is work as a director of rehab in LA and Malibu. What I found out is I got schooled really quickly by the
Mhm.
people that were actually in recovery. So the staff, the counselors, they knew that there was a piece missing. So because I didn't have a full-blown addiction early on, I
Yeah.
had to be open to them and realize there are some pieces where they're going to fill in those holes, and they're going to inspire in ways that clinical psychologists and psychiatrists at times can't do that. And the doctors and the therapists that were actually really real and would be willing to be non-judgmental and not rigid and really fluid, and your style with the street MD and just being really raw, that's what resonated with them. The more real we were, not necessarily being fully transparent, not necessarily disclosing every detail of our lives, but being open, being non-judgmental, that was the way we were able to shape lives and to change lives, or at least inspire them, because they were more open. They could see we weren't judgmental, and we could come at it from a clinical perspective, but without feeling like we weren't real, like we were just doing it and going through the motions, being too
Right.
clinical. That's why I love your style, just being, how you're called street MD, you're really raw. It's like people resonate with that, and that's what really shapes lives. They have to actually do the work, but you're inspiring them because they can feel that you're real, that you're raw.
Thank
Now,
you so much for saying that because like I'm not going to make claims here that I'm any smarter than Kelly Brogan or some of these other brilliant, medical physicians out there. But I think what allowed me to get an audience and connect with you and your audience here is my ability to be relatable. I could explain complicated things in a very simple way. And the bulk of my audience are the young guns, these teenagers, these
yeah.
Gen Zs. And
Mhm.
interestingly, I bust on them a lot actually on my posts and on my lives, but they actually like it and they understand that it's coming from a good place. I'm not an evil guy trying to hurt people. I'm just trying to wake them up and get them to think in a different light, ultimately for their success journey. And I'm sure you could agree too, from your experience as a wellness professional here, that we learn the most. We learn so much from listening to our clients,
Yeah.
right? I
Mhm.
mean, because I don't know how much you learn from the books, and I think some of that stuff is necessary, but I would say 90% plus of the things that I've learned was from my experience and experience from talking to other people who've been there and done that. And I'd like to give you a great example. Like in medical school, they taught us about this medication called Zoloft, which right now is on backwater, from my understanding, because so many people are anxious and stressed with what's going on in the world these days, right? But they would say our gold standard in psychiatry for medication treatment is this book called Stephen Stahl's The Prescription Handbook, Stephen Stahl's. And I actually met the guy too. And I remember when I read this book, I was like enamored by this man. And I actually, when I met him, told him how amazing I thought he was. But I noticed that a lot of things that he was saying in the book was false. For example, he would say, okay, if someone's on 100 milligrams Zoloft, if you want to taper him off of that, then you drop it by 50% for 4 days, and then another 50% for 4 days, and then you stop. And when you do that, when you do a rapid detox like that over a span of 8 days, and someone's been on Zoloft for like a year plus,
Mhm.
they go crazy. They get these brain zaps, they get these severe withdrawal symptoms.
Mhm.
And I remember the patient saying, like, I feel horrible doing it this way, and I would say, well, but the Bible here, the psychiatric Bible says detox over a span of 8 days. And they're saying that's wrong. So I kind of started listening to my patients, and I've learned that a lot of things that they taught us were not very accurate. So I've learned a lot about detox and helping people come off of prescription medication and so on, simply from listening to people.
But see, that comes across because like the fact that you are so raw and so real, it shows how attuned you are. And I really feel like people can be brilliant, they can be geniuses, and they can be really stiff. But when you take that to the next level and you can break things down to where it's digestible for teenagers and people in their 20s, that's where hats off to you. And I'm glad that Gen Z is actually so receptive to that now. Like we can be in our hoodies and we can break things down for them, and they understand that we're still professionals. We still know the clinical knowledge, but what we're trying to do is take it to the next level so that people can potentially prevent problems before they happen, or maybe there's some more harm reduction that's done just because they're actually accessing your information.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And now that Instagram has these like IG reels, these 30-second little, like,
Yeah.
have you seen them?
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, it's like, how do I get a message across in 30 seconds, you know?
So you were a musician, so you already had like a creative outlet. Did you get away from that after a while and then start craving because creating influential content is creatives, obviously. So maybe we can't do that in the modalities so much in the modalities that we use or in the clinic, whatever it is. Did you feel like you needed that creative outlet or were you already still doing your music along the way?
Yeah, I was I was in a band. I was making like techno music. I was in a rock band. I was also DJing with a friend. I was trying all these different avenues to try to, make it into the music industry. And I never made a dime from doing music
Mhm.
from all the years spent. But it taught me how to edit music. It taught me how to edit these little clips that I'm doing. So, it's interesting, but the universe works in very mysterious ways. Because I thought to myself, man, like 3 years of pursuing music and doing a ton of drugs, like what did that, where'd that lead me? And when I was applying for residency, when they saw the 3-year gap on my resume, they're like, what did you do? Did you do research? And I'm like, no, I'd pursued a music career. And I got denied by every single residency program except for this place called Camden Cooper University Hospital, which is based in Camden, New Jersey. It's like the drug capital of the world.
Okay.
And it's not a very powerful residency program, but it is single-handedly probably the best place to get training in addiction medicine and
Mm,
detoxing. You see
mhm.
some of the most craziest cases there, Dr. Kim.
I bet.
So, so my point is like in hindsight, this is why I'm like such a spiritual person, because at the time it didn't make sense to me, but in hindsight it all connects. You could connect the dots back, like, oh my god, if I didn't go into Camden, New Jersey, would I be a detox specialist versus just a regular psychiatrist? you
Right.
know um and then if I didn't have that experience with connecting with the thugs and the music, the drug guys and stuff, would I be able to connect with the teenagers now
Mhm,
who feel like they could relate to me? Would
mhm.
I be able to make these kind of videos that could inspire emotion? Because a lot of people are making like posts or getting information out there by putting out data. And information is cool, but information that's not coupled with some form of emotion,
Yeah.
it's not going to get you too far. And I think that's what one of the things that you appreciate about what I do is that I could create a message that not only educates but entertains and elicits a specific emotion. So the first thing that I do when I create a post is like, what is the feeling that I'm trying to convey to the audience here? And
Smart,
then the information to back it up. So
smart.
I
Very
work backwards.
Very and I agree with the spirituality part, like, every time I go into to create content, I'm also thinking the same thing, like, how can I actually inspire an emotion, a positive emotion, even if it's painful to get to that positive emotion, there's something positive that can be created by the process. So, like, I'm thinking about energy too when I'm actually creating, so that really comes across with you.
Thank you.
Going back to music, I remember that one of the most popular groups was there'd be a band coming in. So it wasn't even clinical, but a band would come in or a songwriter would come in and they would have everyone in recovery actually write music. And that was one of the most popular groups in rehabs. Have
Oh
you ever
yeah.
seen that in practice as well and how cathartic it can be?
Absolutely. Now it's interesting because there's a guy trying to hit me up saying like, "Hey, for your group, I own a group practice called Modern Behavioral,
Mm.
and now it's more like a telepsych kind of practice, which I'm not a big fan of. Like, I appreciate connecting with you
Yeah,
online like this, but the energy will be very different if I was actually in a room with you doing this
that's right.
interview,
Yep.
and the audience here would actually feel the vibrations of that too. So but I'll take it for now with the world situation the way it is. I'll take the telepsych interview here. But um, I remember this guy was hitting me up saying that, hey, I do music therapy. Is there an opportunity for me to, maybe work with your practice and so on? And at the time I considered it, but when I checked out his YouTube videos, he was singing a lot of like country songs and things of that nature. So I quickly shot that down. No disrespect to anyone listening to country music here, but that's just not my steez. I'm more into like electronic kind of underground kind of music.
Yeah, of course.
But bottom line, I encourage people to get involved in not only like playing an instrument, which is great for like brain neuroplasticity, and it's helping your brain grow and helping improve cognition,
Yeah.
but singing. Like if you guys are in your car, if you're feeling a little bit low, put on a music, your favorite track, whatever, and just sing um, f- to the point where you're feeling it. Don't just like
Mhm.
passively sing. But that's like one of the quickest ways to get a nice dopamine release. And I guarantee anyone here, if you, after you listen to this podcast, you put on, one of your Taylor Swift, whatever you're into, and you sing along with it, I guarantee you that it's one of the fastest ways to feel better by singing. Yeah.
So you talk a lot about nutrients and nutrient deficiencies, and I know people like to get into that routine of getting into like more organic foods and really being cognizant of like herbs and supplements and things like that after they go through something like an addiction, or even after a major depressive episode or a manic episode, whatever it is. They're trying to stabilize their mood, potentially a little bit with an aid of nutrients. What are your thoughts about nutrients after an addiction or while someone's in a depressive episode?
Yeah. If you, what I've noticed from, I've been practicing for like over 10 plus years, and a lot of people seem to think that once, let's use someone in a drug recovery, for example.
Mm.
They've been putting all these chemicals and toxic crap into their body, and then a lot of people seem to believe that once they stop using the drug, that's it. They won. They're not using heroin or crack cocaine or these prescription medications anymore, and thank God I'm done with the detox and I'm good. But think about it, like these kind of medications, right? Like Zoloft, Adderall. What they do is there's not a single molecule of serotonin or dopamine in there. Zoloft, for example, Prozac, these SSRIs, these medications that help artificially enhance serotonin levels. How they do it is they slow down the breakdown of serotonin that's naturally produced in your body. There isn't a single molecule of serotonin in there. And when I explain to my clients that, they're like, really? Yes, man. I mean, I'm not lying to you about this shit. So then the next question would be, well, where does serotonin come from? Well, it comes from the foods that you eat, and 80 to 90% of the serotonin that's produced in your body is produced in your gut, by these healthy, by a combination of nutrients and these probiotics, these bacteria that are like the workers that put all these nutrients together to create serotonin for you, and then send it up through your vagus nerve to your brain so that the serotonin could have benefits, mental health benefits. Dopamine too. Dopamine is it comes from an amino acid, tyrosine, but tyrosine cannot convert to dopamine by itself. You need magnesium, zinc, and a B complex. So when I try to tell people that unless you change the way you eat, your body really doesn't know how to produce dopamine or serotonin on its own. Like you have to give it the nutrients it needs to do what it's supposed to do. Amazing, Dr. Kim, but I could get someone to stop using heroin, but to get them to eat smarter, it's borderline like, exposing them to kryptonite. They don't want anything to do with it.
Mhm.
So that's why I kind of got into the supplementation route. All right, fine. If you're not willing to prepare these kind of foods, if you want to eat like shit, that's on you. I can't
Yeah,
control you, but maybe I could influence you to take magnesium and a B complex at
right,
least.
right.
So that's kind of how I got into the nutrient, the holistic realm in that
Okay,
way.
well, I have to shout out just personally the fact that you came up with Beyond Recovery, the fact that that's even accessible and that a holistic psychiatrist developed that. Just shout out to that. So, where can they find that, just in case they're listening?
It's beyondrecovery.com.
Yeah.
And we have one product out, but in about a month or two, we have like 6 other products coming out based on um, the needs from the audience, from what they shared with me. Do you know this guy, Dr. Ben Lynch? He owns a
Oh,
company called Seeking Health.
okay. No.
Ben Lynch, really smart guy. And I asked him, I said, hey, how do I go about creating new products? And he said, duh, ask your audience, man. Ask the people that support you what they
Yeah.
want and
Yeah.
fulfill that need.
Mhm.
So I learned that for anyone listening to this, I think with everything going on in the world today, a lot of people are stressed. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say, Dr. Kim? A
Yes,
lot of
it
people are
is. Yeah.
stressed and
And
feeling
agitated.
anxious.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the first thing that I recommend to all my clients and to the beautiful people here listening and watching this is when people are stressed out, your magnesium levels depletes. And when people are stressed, they usually drink a little alcohol here and there to alleviate the discomfort that they might be feeling.
Mhm.
So alcohol and stress is like a perfect storm of depleting your magnesium levels. And when that happens, people feel more anxious, more tired, more
Mhm.
stressed. They
Mhm.
can't sleep. Their sleep gets
Can't sleep.
choppy.
Yep.
They start getting like muscle aches, constipation, so on. So um, I recommend magnesium for a lot of people, and particularly magnesium glycinates, because it has
Mhm,
an extra like relaxing property to
mhm.
it. But one of the problems with magnesium, Dr. Kim, is that a lot of people have a hard time swallowing these giant magnesium tablets. So I decided to come up with like a Beyond Recovery magnesium, like liquid magnesium, so that you could just take a teaspoon of it and done. You're done for the day. So I'm trying to come up with like new, cooler ways to make it easier and more efficient for people to get what they need when they're not willing to do the things that they should be doing.
Yeah.
I believe that for your audience, you probably have a lot of like health conscious wellness people, listen to this. So maybe it's not for them, but the vast majority of the world, come on, girl, you know what's up, man. Most
Oh,
people
yeah,
eat
we do. No,
toxic.
no, actually, a lot of our listeners are actually going through depressive episodes, whether it's just an adjustment disorder or they're going through a breakup, or they're experiencing grief and loss. So a lot of people are depleted neurochemically. But I like to get them excited. Like in the morning, if you're supplementing, it's like you're giving yourself that boost. But when someone's talking about how excited they get, like I'll do cacao every single morning with, a
Yeah.
banana in the shake with blueberries and all that. But I would add your supplement to that, and that just creates, you're already habituating to kind of like an adaptive lifestyle, because what happens is it's a non-compatible behavior. Like it's not compatible if you take a shake or a supplement that feels really good and you feel healthy drinking it. That's not compatible with like maladaptive behaviors like smoking or drinking too much or eating junk food. Like you're already in that state in the morning of doing something good for yourself. That's going to make you more likely to do great things throughout the day. They're
Or hanging out with toxic motherfuckers, like
toxic.
that's one of the things that people have to understand. Like one of the best things you could do for yourself, and this isn't anything original, but let go of toxic people that
Mm.
drain your energy and soul and your spirit for love. There I've met plenty of those people, and by cutting those guys out, it's been one of the quickest ways to feel better because yeah,
I don't
you
know if you're
are.
like me, but I did have like I was a bit of a juvenile delinquent, and I was attracted to people that were a little edgy because like female friends that were edgy. I felt like it was stimulating to me. And the strange part is the more I did research or got into my career, the more I was stimulated and didn't need people like that so much. So it's like I didn't need that extra boost of entertainment because I was really feeding my mind. So sometimes it can be a problem of someone that just needing that stimulation or is very intelligent. So you can
Mhm.
get into these toxic situations just because it's a little bit exciting or it's a little bit mentally stimulating. But slowly along the way, you start not being so attracted to these people because you're not aligned with them anymore, and they're not providing anything good, and you're on your purpose.
I will admit that when I was in my music days, like hanging out with the rock stars and the gangbangers and those guys, that's why I call myself Street MD because I used to hang out with these guys a lot. Um, they are a lot more fun than your typical like medical students. So go imagine, Dr. Kim,
Thank
going from that
you.
environment
Exactly.
to medical school with a bunch of the nerdy crew and so on. And
Little
and
stiff.
yes, I made very stiff
Hmm.
actually, but I do like a cost benefit analysis. Like ultimately, if you think about it, any relationship that you're involved in, you're in the relationship because you stand to gain something from that person, and vice versa. That person hangs out with you only because there's something to be gained on their end as well from you. It doesn't have to be like money or anything like that, but like maybe you're just a really good listener,
Mhm.
or you could crack people up so they gain value from that relationship
Definitely.
from you.
Hmm.
So a lot of times people are asking like, "Oh man, I don't understand why Julie's not calling me anymore, or Johnny's not, hitting me up for parties and stuff." And the first question you got to ask yourself is, what are you giving to Johnny and Julie? Like, what is your value to them? And
So good.
if I want something from someone, um, I always make the first move about 3 months in advance before I ask these guys for a favor. If you just go and ask someone for help, most people are gonna be like, "What the hell, man? You haven't talked to me in years, and now you want something from my ass." But I
And
usually do.
you get that a lot as a psychiatrist and as an influencer.
Oh
You've got to
yeah,
be
like
approached
people
all
just
the time.
message me saying, "Hey, can you write me a note that I got a vaccine passport?" I'm like, "Are you crazy, man? I'm not gonna lose my license for your ass." Um, So no, like people ask me for all these random things, and even if they scratch my back, I'm not going to do anything illegal like that.
Yeah,
But just from like a business perspective, like because psychology is all over everything in life, right, Doc?
absolutely.
And if you find someone that you're like, man, I am like really impressed by this person's work, um, you want to scratch their back a little bit. Like I think Dave Asprey is a great example. He's the founder of Bulletproof Coffee. He's
Mm,
that guy that went up to the Himalayan mountains and
yeah.
created this awesome brand. And
Mhm,
I wanted to learn from him, so I would, share his stuff, and I would always comment on the stuff, and I would tell him how amazing I think he is. And did little things to scratch his back. And then 3 months later, I asked him if we could do a live together, and he said, "Yeah, let's do it." So we kind of built up a relationship that way. So anyone listens to this, if you guys have like someone in your life that you're like, man, this person is amazing, and I would love to be connected with them, try to do them a solid first, and don't do it like 2 days before you ask them for a favor, like
mhm,
months in advance.
mhm,
Scratch that back, show them some love, and do it genuinely.
mhm.
And the karma usually comes back in a very good way.
And it feels good to add value anyway, like, then you're building something real, and then you don't feel lame for asking for something. As humans, we are wanting some kind of value add from the relationship, and that association becomes more negative as they start to have less reward from these interactions.
Agreed, agreed, agreed. And one of the things that I always pitch to my clients and the audience here, and my audience on social media, is to focus on the four pillars of mental wellness. And a lot of people have heard this one before, but if I could just repeat it on the show,
Yeah.
we definitely want to put energy into sleeping rights, eating rights, exercising the mind and body rights, and connecting with the right people. The first three are within everyone's control. You could control yourself to fall asleep at a certain time. I mean, it might take a little bit of work, but you
Mhm,
can make that happen.
mhm.
You can choose to eat smart. I hate the word diet. The first three words is die, and it just subconsciously just has a negative connotation to it. But eating smarter
Mm.
can be inspiring. It makes sense. Um,
And you call that Whole Foods mostly, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't believe that one diet fits all.
Mhm.
I know people who've done very well vegan wise, and I know
Yeah.
keto guys that's flourished in life too. So to each their own. But it's
Mhm.
for me personally, Doc. I feel like the easiest when people are eating dog shit 3 times a day, um, it's easiest for me to pitch to them to eat more paleo.
Okay.
And the way I would explain it to people is like if you look at a cracker, and then if you look at a strawberry or a kiwi and you cut that, and I'll just show it to them and be like, look, man, one of these things have life and energy and juice in there, and the other one is just like dead. Like, what do you think? And then that like
So
visual
good.
representation, yeah, they will get it at that point. And
Mhm.
I said, if you keep eating dead things, you're gonna feel a certain way versus if you eat things that have life,
Right.
you're gonna have life inside of you. So like it's up to you how you want to play this. And even for the guys that want to eat meat, I would say try not to eat like the shit from McDonald's. Like it's like fake meats versus like chicken from the bone. Like don't eat that patty, but eat that the wing if you want to, or
Mhm,
steak with the bone on it.
mhm.
At least it's real meat, hopefully organic, grass fed, and so on. So that's the eating part. But and then the exercising the mind. A lot of people know how to work out their bodies, but what I say when I'm saying exercising the mind, I'm asking people to challenge their minds. Read a book, instead of just looking at a video and stuff like that. Like read a book,
Yeah.
learn something new, learn an instrument, do things that you normally wouldn't be doing, push yourself into the discomfort zone. So that's like somewhat of an exercise. It might be stressful initially, but once you overcome it, you feel really great about yourself.
Yeah,
So
so true.
very important for us to stimulate and exercise our minds. So again, number one, two, and three, sleeping right, eating right, and exercising mind and body is within our control. The problem or the challenge that I'm having and the world is having right now, Dr. Kim, is the fourth one, which is connection. That's the thing that I'm honestly still struggling with. Like, how am I connecting? Like this way of connecting for a year, sure. But if this is going to keep happening like this, um, I don't know, something has to happen because I really want the connections to start happening ASAP.
Yeah. Well, we know that is a big prong of contentment. So, like you said, like one of these, it's you have to have the full identity, activity, meaning, and purpose. All of these things are contentment. So we take a big prong of contentment out of there. That's
Mm.
why we're going to see more domestic violence, addiction, and depressive episodes. It's pretty scary.
I remember when my grandfather passed first, and my grandmother was in a separate hospital room,
Wow.
and 3 days after my grandfather passed, she passed. And these two were like they were spiritually connected.
Yeah.
They like it was very clear that they were one. So
So the other
that's
one
why
wanted to go. The other one wanted to go because they felt so disconnected or lonely.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
what I believe at least. And
Broken heart, broken heart, and that's why I take broken hearts so seriously. Yeah, I'm so glad we got into connection. That is such a big prong. What do you think are the protective factors? Like when you're seeing people in recovery, like who's doing the best? I know it's individualized, but who's actually doing the best in your opinion as far as maintaining that long-term recovery?
that's a really, really, really good question. So all right, I'm going to share with you something. um I was at a party, right? And this was many years back when I used to be a bad boy, but I was at a party in New York City, and I'm 45 now, and I let go of marijuana when I was around 37 years of age.
Mhm.
Okay? And I didn't let it go because it was illegal at the time, or my wife was saying, "Hey, you're an addiction psychiatrist. You shouldn't be smoking weed." But I've been using weed all my life, especially as a musician and all this stuff.
Mhm.
And I wasn't doing it just to get messed up or anything. There were tremendous benefits for me for TC use, like creativity.
Yeah.
I love listening to music or watching a horror flick on weed. Like food tastes amazing on it. So I use it not to just be a douchebag, but there were some benefits to it. So, but that all changed when I was 37 years old. So what happened was I was invited to this party in New York City, and I got to the party late. So my friend who invited me to this like penthouse party, it was like a dope ass party. He had to leave early. So when I got there, I didn't know anyone. They're playing all this crazy ass music there, and I remember going out to the balcony overlooking the Manhattan skylines, and there was a guy. And I was thinking to myself, damn, man, like I don't know anyone here. It would be nice if I had some weed so I could kind of like, because I don't drink alcohol. So I'm like, all right, it would be nice if I could take a rip from somebody. And I saw this guy smoking a vape pen, like a THC vape pen. And this is when it first started becoming a thing.
Mhm.
And so I was like, hey, man, can I give you $20 for one hit of your vape pen? And he's like, I don't need your money, man. Just smoke this shit. I just got this from Denver, Colorado. This is the Blueberry Kush, like plus whatever it was. And I took one hit, and he's like, no, man, you got to hit that shit two more times. And you know how the story goes, man. I did that, and immediately, man, I started like panicking. It was so concentrated. This guy was a crazy weed guy. I mean, he was at another level
Yep.
where one hit was probably more than enough for me, but I took three hits, and I started getting all panicky, and it was like crazy because I didn't know anyone. And then they started playing like Megadeth kind of music. Like who does that at a party? You're playing more like dance music. These guys were playing like heavy metal shit. So it was like one of the most like panic-ridden experiences of my life. And there's a point to this, trust me. So then I remember I passed out at the couch of this person who I didn't even know.
Mhm.
And then I remember the owner of the penthouse and his bodyguard like threatened to call the cops because I was like, just passed out on the couch there, right? And I remember there was this lady in whites, and I wish I knew who she was because I would love to buy her like a nice Gucci bag to thank her for what she did for me this moment. But she told those guys to leave me alone. And she just kind of came back and said, "Hey, are you okay? Can I help you out here?"
Yeah.
And I was like, look, I don't know you, but two things. One is, can you give me a glass of water? And two, can I lie my head on your lap? And I
Yeah.
was married at the time. I wasn't trying to do anything,
Sure.
foolish here, but I was so sick and I just needed to like hold somebody or something. So I
Yeah.
was like, can I just lay my head on your lap so I could at least have that human touch?
Yep.
So she did that for me. And she goes, so what happened? And I said, oh man, like I took a rip of this thing and it gave me an acute panic attack. And she goes, oh, I used to be into all the drugs. I used to be into all the prescription medications. I was depressed as shit
Mhm.
and anxious all the time.
Yeah.
But now I'm not on any of that stuff anymore, and I'm past it. And mind you, this lady didn't know I was a psychiatrist, board certified addictions for
Right.
that matter.
Exactly. Mhm.
So I was like, what's your secret? And she said that she got to this point in her life where she felt so shitty about herself that she made the decision to eat better. Okay. So that's what she said. She said, I just made the decision that I wasn't going to eat all this toxic crap anymore. And I first decided to eat better. And she said that when she started to eat better, she had more energy. And when she had more energy, she could do more shit,
Yeah.
including working out and doing the yoga and the stuff that she used to do that used to make her feel a lot better. So then when she would do the yoga, that only reinforced her to want to step up her nutrition game. And then from getting her mind and her body straightened out, she found spirituality, she said.
Yeah.
And at that point, I woke up and I looked at her and I said, "Are you telling me that spirituality is um, being fit in the mind and body is a requirement for you to achieve spirituality?" And she said, "No. But if you think about the fact that your body is like a temple,
Mhm.
and if your mind and your body is very toxic, it's very hard to enter into the spiritual realm when your like temple is polluted. So it's not a requirement, but it makes it a lot easier for you to gain clarity and enter into the world of spirituality if you take better care of your mind and body."
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of me like really changing the way I choose to help my clients
Mhm.
too. And I noticed that this common denominator in anyone who's achieved success in their health, mind, body, wellness,
Mhm.
or in their recovery from substance abuse or whatever, they all seem to have a spiritual element to it. I haven't met one human being that is like super happy that's not somewhat spiritually connected. I'm sure there are some people out there, but from my experience, the common denominator is mind, body, and spirits.
Agreed, and the research supports it. Positive psychology research supports the fact that spirituality ends up being a huge factor, an edge, and everyone that I've met that's ended up being sponsors in AA and NA and having long-term sustained recovery without a lot of relapses in between
Yes,
have had a major spiritual component.
absolutely. Yeah. So that's
Oh, what
kind
a
of
beautiful illustration. Yeah,
and
that makes a lot of sense. How long then since you've smoked?
smoke weed. Man, it's I mean, so 37 was when I decided to let go of like that daily use.
Yeah.
I mean, now if any of my friends want to still hang out with me, and if they happen to have something, like
Uh-huh.
I'll still mess around. I'll be happy
Yeah,
to,
once in a
but
while.
it depends on the person though. Like if it's like someone who I know is gonna crack me up and stuff, sure. But if it's
Mhm.
someone who I don't know, or if they are like very negative, then it's gonna get me into that state.
That makes sense.
By the way, I had this unique opportunity to speak to a Rasta man who, again, really changed the way I thought about weed in general. Um, he was a guy that came to my home several years back to build a desk for me, and he had the dreads and stuff. So we were listening to
Right.
Bob Marley, and we're just kind of talking. And
Yeah.
I asked him like, where he's from. He said he's from Jamaica, and we got into this weed conversation. So I told him how I felt about it. I think that there are like some people who have destroyed their lives with it, but other people they seem to do okay.
Right.
And this guy, his name was Keone. I still remember this guy. Really cool dude. And he said that he started smoking marijuana at the age of 7 in Jamaica. So in his village, once a month, the Rasta man will come from the top of the mountain and bring him up there, and
Wow.
they'll choose like one child, and he would smoke them up and do some sort of religious ceremony. And in America, that would be wrong on so many levels, but in Jamaica, in this village, it was
Right.
accepted.
Yep.
So he said that this one month he was chosen by the Rasta man to go up and smoke up with him, right?
Mhm.
And he said that the first time he smoked, he loved it, and he asked the Rasta man, "What is this?"
Mm.
And the Rasta man looked him in the eye and he said, "Young brother, that thing that you have in your hand is something that could either enhance you or ruin you. You got to be the one to learn to smoke responsibly
Mhm.
and use it to your advantage."
Mhm.
And what I noticed is that for parents who hire their kids to come see me to like stop like marijuana use or whatever, like I'll tell them like, look, I'm not going to tell them yes or no. I'm going to teach them how to use it more responsibly or make better choices for themselves, because it's not really the weed that's the
Right.
problem. It's the person that's using it. I mean,
I
they
agree. That's like it's like food too. Like someone celebrating with chocolate cake or something like that. Um, that can be something that's celebratory. It doesn't have to be something that's maladaptive. But I think
absolutely.
you're right. Once you start using anything, marijuana or food, like it's actually numbing you out. and you're disconnected from your purpose or from your spirit or from your energy, that's when it becomes more maladaptive. You start numbing out or depending on it, or it just simply is something to mask negative emotions. So I
Yeah.
think numbing out, disconnecting, that's where it's a problem. And then it, if it's all day long, but you're right, it's really the energy you're putting into something too, and how good you're already feeling about your purpose. Are you already doing are you already engaged in the four pillars like you talked about?
Right.
So if all that's connected, then someone like yourself can actually use that sporadically and it be something, and it's an enhancement. Maybe you're more creative that day.
Exactly.
Okay, so last thing, because I know you're busy, but what is your routine? Like as a holistic psychiatrist, what are some things, maybe some secrets that you implement into your life or that you put into your routine? What gets you staying in this motivated place to put out so much creative content, to help so many people in your practice and online?
It's interesting because I was on my Instagram live yesterday and people were like, "Hey man, how do I maintain my sanity through this and how do I become happy and stuff?" And it's like, look, just because I'm a psychiatrist does not mean that I'm happy all the time. I mean, I have my moments where I go on my live and just go off with the world and shit like that.
Wow, yeah.
But I think the best advice that I could give, what I practice and what I would love to share with the audience here is if you're someone who is struggling to find some level of peace, and I get this a lot too. A lot of my clients, these young guns, will come to me and say, like, I don't know why, like things are okay in my life, but I just don't feel right. Like, how do you keep going and how do you do what you're doing? Um, I focus on these several of these psychological needs that I share with people. So, step one is that we all, at the core root of our psychological needs, we all need a sense of security. We all
Mhm,
need a sense of security. Like,
mhm.
if you were waking up and going outside and thinking that you're going to be attacked by a lion or something like that, like, you're never going to be at peace with yourself. So, security is a very, the primary psychological need that we all need. Um, Followed by variety. We need some spice in our life. So that's why I encourage people to figure out ways to do something different and to add some variety or something new, experience something new, which I'm truthfully, Dr. Kim, I'm struggling to find that because like I'm in this routine and I got to put in other things in the mix,
Yeah,
or else if
yep,
you watch the same movie over and over again, it just is not fulfilling anymore.
yep,
So got to find some new things to do. And people say, well, I don't know what to do. Well, then figure it out. I mean, I
yeah,
can't figure it out for you, but
yep,
what moves you, like figure out a different thing to do every once in a while. You have to. Um, we all need a sense of individuality. A lot of people are coming to me saying like, when I ask them like, hey man, like who are you and what you stand for? And what do you believe in? I don't know. Well, maybe that's why you feel shitty because you don't know who you are yet. So I think it's very important to identify. One of the fastest ways to identify like what you're all about and what your purpose is and all that is notice what you're doing where time just flies by.
mm,
And you could probably find like 18 different things where you're doing where just time just flies by. And that's like a sign from the universe, in my opinion, that that's your calling, that's your flow. And amongst all those things where time flies by, if you could figure out a way to utilize that to help another human being, you'll have a very good sense of what your purpose and who you are all about and what you're meant to be here. So we need a sense of individuality, and we all need a sense. We all need to be a part of something greater than ourselves, of course. So it's very important to connect with other human beings and be a part of a group. That's why a lot of these people who are in recovery, they go into AA, NA meetings, and then they feel connected. They're part of something much greater than themselves.
they do. And a lot of it is about philanthropy. Like a lot of times they'll be donating or working at soup kitchens or whatever. They find other ways to stimulate and to find meaning and purpose, but they do it, you're right, in a connected way so that
Yeah,
they're not really feeling lonely, and that takes that risky trigger away from them.
right. And then the last two is what are you doing to contribute to society in some way?
Mhm.
Because if you don't give, you're not going to get much back. And that's a lonely existence when the karma doesn't come back favorably in your way because you're just hoarding everything. So I'm big on giving and contributing in some way. And then last but not least, growth. We got to always figure out a way to grow in some way and improve in some way, little by little, every single day. And usually when I go through that checklist, people that aren't feeling very good and those guys are like, I don't know why, I just don't feel very good. Like, one or two of those boxes are missing. So if you could focus in on that, that's what I do every single day. I just keep a mental note of what am I doing to grow, contribute, connect with other people, make sure I know who I am and what I stand for. And do I feel secure? Yes, generally speaking. We'll see how this plays out the rest of this year, but I feel secure now. And variety is probably the thing that's on my mind the most. Like, what am I going to do different today? That's
Yeah.
going to stimulate my mind and my body.
Yeah.
So.
No, I always say like every maybe 3 to 6 months for people, especially at your level, that they need to be changing it up and even adding a project because you need that constant stimulation and not to distract, not to numb out, but actually to add and enhance and stay stimulated. And I think that's where academics have an edge because they're already so habituated to research, to learning. And that's why sometimes we have to learn that routine. Like if we've been out of school for a while, just reading, like you said earlier, and really consuming content that puts you in a different way. It looks at you, you're having a different perspective on life and things that you could be doing to add value, like you said. But you have given
Doc, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because you look amazing. I'm looking at you and you
so
just look like
sweet.
you're glowing with like energy and positivity. Keep doing what you're doing out there in the West Coast, man. You got the
You
right
too.
formula.
Oh, that feels good. It's really a holistic psychiatrist validating what I'm doing. I will take it any day. But I am
100%.
so excited that you came on. I'm telling you, you gave us some serious gems and it all came from the heart, and your spirit is amazing. And it's just an added bonus that you are so affable and that you are the street MD.
Yeah.
And breaking down, you're so real with us because it makes us feel like we're not strange or we're not outsiders. You know, whatever someone's going through, they feel like, you know, I could never get to that level of where he's at, and or maybe he doesn't understand. But all of that goes away when you're so approachable. And I'm just thankful that you're putting that out in the world.
I appreciate that so much. And thank you so much for the audience here, hanging out with us for the hour and allowing me to, share my street wisdom with you. And I hope to connect with you guys on Instagram or whatever
Yeah, where
platform.
can they find you?
I think my well, I used to be on TikTok, but they didn't like what I had to say. So Instagram is my platform right now. It's Yoji MD, YOJIMD, and it's like my name backwards, Joe Yi MD. But so many people started calling me Dr. Joy. I just changed it to Yoji MD. So
So YOJIMD. Check him out, you guys. You will not regret it. It's entertaining. It's really what I call infotainment. And thank you so much again for being on.
I appreciate you, Dr. Kim.